Oh, I got some juicy news for you. Profit First app version 2.0 is here. With an enhanced user experience and video guidance throughout, you can now be even more confident in your Profit First implementation. Plus, listeners who work with a certified Profit First professional get extra benefits. Check it out now at www.profitfirstapp.com.
Today, right here, right now, this is the moment that you will finally say,
I'm growing my accounting practice, and you're going to discover exactly how right here, right now,
on the Grow My Accounting Practice podcast.
Welcome to the show, my friends. This is Mike Michalowicz here, the author of Profit First, joined in studio with the one and only.
With me, Liz Sporn. I am a guide and more. Didn't get to say that? Here at Profit First Professionals.
And a mom of a lacrosse player. We've been talking lacrosse off air. I'm also the author of Profit First. I said that already. Some other business books. And a little about the show you're listening to is called GMAP, Grow My Accounting Practice. You're going to learn how to do exactly that. So if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, you're absolutely in the right place. If you're a business coach, you're absolutely in the right place because there's this amalgamation of all three of those talents coming into one. And this is the place that shows you how to navigate it. We have a great guest interview coming up. Sonny Magana is joining us, and we're going to talk about learning at the next level. Plus, I got GMAP Now task. One task, if you do, you see results. And we're going to explore a trippy question today.
I love it. So exciting. And I want to just let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by Impressia Bank. Some of my favorite ladies in the banking industry, Robin Bink and Mary Beth, are amazing, wonderful women who created a female bank, a women's only bank for female business owners. So Impressia Bank is a great friend of ours here at Profit First Professionals, and we thank them for their support.
And any guy business owners, you can work with them too.
They will take you too, don't you?
So they are also a personal bank of mine. I've been using them. I've been very impressiaed by them.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cute. No, they've been excellent. Liz, I am so pumped to get into the interview. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just go.
His name is Dr. Sonny Magana, and he is an award-winning educator, best-selling author, and global thought leader who empowers organizations with research-driven strategies to accelerate learning and innovation. As a creator of the T3 framework and founder of the nation's first public cyber school, there had to be the first. This is the fella. He inspires transformational change through dynamic keynotes that blend evidence-based insights with powerful storytelling. With no further ado, Sonny, welcome to our show.
Oh my!
Thanks very much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate this.
We're pumped to have you. You know, before we went on the air, we're looking at some of your guitars you have there. You have quite a collection. We're talking lacrosse, and then you said something that was profound. You said meta learning, and we're going to talk about the 7 habits of meta learning, applies not just to accounting or the professions. It applies to every aspect of life. So why don't you tell us, what is meta learning and how can it apply to everything?
Yeah, it sounds almost too good to be true,
Right.
doesn't it? When you say anybody can learn anything at optimum levels, at will. But I'm a researcher, so my background is in education research and social sciences, and I'm an evidence guy. I rely on evidence, and if somebody gives me an opinion without evidence, I'm suspicious. So that's what it took me so long to come up with this idea of meta learning. I've been researching the impact of different influences on learning outcomes for about 45 years, and that's a long time. Technology became a big focus for a while, and now I'm really more interested in the human learning aspect and kind of a parallel human and AI and machine learning can combine to create a harmonious effect. I first got interested in learning when I was a student teacher in New Jersey, where I'm from, and started looking at the tension I found between where learners resided mentally, cognitively, emotionally, socially, and where their school resided. And there seemed to be a lot of tension because we really should be focused on meeting learners where they are. Generally, that's a challenge. That's a constant challenge because our generations are constantly evolving. We've got, alpha generation now. These kids have never known a world without interconnected devices. So we have to have new languages. The reason I'm saying this is that I found that we lacked a common language of innovative learning. So I invented it. So,
That's awesome.
uh, and we usually think about learning as memorizing. The three R's
Yeah.
is retain, recall, and regurgitate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a language that is no longer useful. So I invented a language that I call meta learning. And I was surprised that this kind of concept didn't exist. But here's what meta learning really is. It's an innate capacity that every human has, the ability to learn how to learn, unlearn, and relearn as a
Mm.
form of habits. So meta learning is really the ability that we all have to acquire new conceptual understanding. Compare that to new evidence that may conflict or contradict our assumptions, and be able to have the agility to adapt based on new information or new evidence that confounds our underlying assumptions and beliefs. But then, in order to unlearn something, you have to relearn something else. You got to replace it with something else. It's like in that movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indiana Jones is replacing the golden idol with a bag of
Oh,
sand.
right. With the bag.
With a bag of sand,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're going to remove something, you got to replace it with something else. That's the way the human mind works. So meta learning is something that is available to all of us. And my research studies have led me to this point where I can claim with confidence that anybody that develops the 7 meta learning habits can enter the zone of optimal performance at any time.
Wow. So I just want to understand this concept of unlearning. It feels like
Yeah.
once you know something or believe you know something, it's very hard to unknow. Is there a
Yeah.
process to unlearning?
There is. In fact, you mentioned in your book, I really enjoyed reading Profit First because you talked about how habits are difficult. It's difficult to acquire a new habit.
Right.
It's difficult to unlearn a new habit. I really appreciated the point that you made. It's the environment, the conditions that are conducive to habit development. That's what you got to focus on. So the answer is yes, habits can be unlearned, but it all depends on what are the conditions. You gave the great example of you want to lose weight, use smaller plates. Right.
Right.
It's a great idea. You have to change the environmental conditions that allow you to move forward. So unlearning, you have to recognize that if you're going to unlearn something, you got to understand the how, the what, and the why. Why do I no longer need this assumption? Why is this a mental construct no longer valuable for me? Learning to put profit first, for example, falls into that category. If you want to, instead of the generally accepted accounting principles that you talked about, subtract your profits from your sales, and that equals expenses. So sales minus profits equals expenses. That's a kind of a mental construct. Most people have the opposite construct, where sales minus expenses equals profit. So to unlearn that, you have to kind of set the conditions for really appreciating the rationalization, the outcomes, and the possible return on investment for engaging in unlearning. And that provides the motivation. Then it's a matter of consistency, follow through, and consistent practice,
Yeah.
deliberate, intentional practice. And that creates kind of a cognitive space for a new habit to emerge. It'll be like a plant. It'll seed, it'll germinate. You got to nurture it, you got to water it, you got to feed it, and then that new habit will sprout.
Oh my gosh, I could see that. It's so beautiful. I love it's right. I mean, I just love seeing this space for that. You're
Yeah.
deliberately moving something over and say, here, this is where we're going. I love this. And now there's new space for this new
There's a new
habit.
space.
And
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the
I love-
challenges, Sonny, that our members have is the sunk cost fallacy. They're like, well, I've been doing this for 25 years. I can't, I've been an accountant and this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
You're telling me there's a new method to profitability as an example. And maybe you already addressed it because you did set the motivational standards, like what the outcomes will be. Are there other ways to overcome that sunk cost? I've already done so much to abandon it's too painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to really understanding how humans learn. I think the core of any enterprise is learning. And whether that's an accounting enterprise, a marketing enterprise, an educational enterprise, an athletic enterprise, the core is learning. And so we have to recognize that as humans, we're apex learning machines. We've evolved to this state in our species evolution to thrive in unimaginably harsh and challenging environments. So we have to get back to like the understanding of what does it mean to learn? What does it mean? It doesn't just memorization, just filling, our heads up with knowledge we, spit out on like a pub game or a Jeopardy game or some sort of a trivial activity. But really understanding that human learning is about habits.
Mm.
Aristotle said it best, actually. Aristotle said that excellence is not an act, but a habit.
Mm.
That's great. In fact, I use that quote in my book because it just says it all, in just a few words. The Greeks, you got to hand it to the Greeks. They say, volumes with an economy of words, but excellence is a habit. It's not an act. So when we think about unlearning a habit, we're really kind of opening up a Pandora's box of
Yeah.
comfort and
Yes.
familiarity and tradition and the way it's always been. That takes courage.
Mm.
It takes courage to engage in some self introspection and then challenge the assumptions that may not be delivering for us like we think they are.
Yes.
We
And
just had
that's
this conversation 2 weeks ago with our guest, Michelle Weinstein. We're talking about pricing, and she said you have to admit there's a problem first in order to
Right.
make any change.
Exactly.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
That's a good way
And,
to
and also have this trust in the outcome. Why don't you walk us, if you can, through the 7 habits, if we've time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, you got to do it in 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Well, let me give you just a brief overview of the 7, and then kind of dive into one. I think the first thing is commitment. The first habit is develop the habit of committing to your own goals. So the idea of self-determinism is that we as humans have the ability to establish challenging goals for ourselves. That's good, but that's not as good as setting them and committing to realizing them.
Yeah.
That commitment connects the head and the heart. It's an emotional as well as a cognitive experience. So once you commit to doing something, look, come hell or high water, damn the torpedoes, nothing's going to stop you. You're going to go for it. The second thing is you have to engage in self-regulation. Make
Yep.
that a habit. When the going gets tough, environmental conditions and pressures put us in a state of anxiety or concern or fear, that has a negative effect on learning. When we're fearful or anxious or we have some trepidation, that's the opposite of commitment.
Mm.
So sometimes it's not just committing, it's recommitting, making
I
that a
gotcha.
habit, right? And then when you got to stay cool, calm, and collected, find some restorative practices that help you maintain your equilibrium. That's self-regulation. The third habit is leveraging prior knowledge. What do you know already about some new problem space or some experience that you can bring to bear to that moment and leverage your prior knowledge? See, the Oxford English Dictionary describes technology, and this surprises people when I tell them this. Technology is knowledge that is applied to solve a problem. So when we think about it, about prior knowledge, that's a technology.
That's a technology then. Yeah.
It's a technology. So, but it's in our meat computer, not the digital computer.
I like that. The meat.
Meat computer.
So activate your learning operating system. Know how your learning operating system works, and then leverage that to tackle new problems. Then contributive learning is the fourth habit, which is learning together. It's very clear we learn better together than we do in isolation. So
Amen.
we just do. It's social, it's fun, it's more enjoyable. But it's more than just collaborative learning. When you contribute to the learning of others, when you become a teacher, that's when you learn at a very high rate. When you teach someone else what you know. The fifth habit is implementing frameworks. Frame your learning with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The surface learning, the details, the facts that you've got to commit to understanding or memory. Then there's a deeper learning where you look for the conceptual relationships. How does this apply? You do thought experiments. You think about strategic outcomes. That's about framing learning with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The sixth habit is make your learning connected to reality, connected to some relevant thing that is in your life, and categorize your learning into superordinate and subordinate structures. By that, I mean prioritize. What's the most important? What's your top tier need? What's your top tier learning? What's the learning that supports that? What's underneath? Those are subordinate. And then the last thing is meta learners generate their own meta feedback. They know how well they're engaging in a learning experience. At every moment, they're learning, and they don't require someone else to tell them how they're doing.
Interesting.
So those are the 7 habits in a nutshell.
That
And
last one sounds really particularly difficult because we're so
yeah,
programmed to have external judgment
right.
and measurement.
Yeah.
Is there a how-to, or is that something we have to unlearn
There
to
is.
relearn?
Yeah, no, in my book, Learning in the Zone, I talk about these 7 habits and practices, strategies that can help you develop these things. I developed a tool called the Magana Mastery Tracker to help you engage in tracking 3 currencies of mastery, which is emotional regulation, effort regulation, and contribution. And all have a positive and direct correlation to learning outcomes. When we feel good about ourselves and our learning, when our emotional state is high, learning excels. We regulate our effort and we put in just the right amount of effort at the right time, you don't always have to go 100% all the time, but you need to have the right amount of effort at the right time and the right amount of contribution. How much are you learning or contributing to the team or to the organization? So that helps folks start developing these habits, but they'll start as strategies first.
Yeah.
They begin as strategies over time and consistent practice and measuring the return on your investment. These strategies become habitual, and then it becomes a way of being.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the framework. So you talked about the frameworks of the surface, deeper, and applied learning, and I
Yeah,
believe that comes from your T3
it does.
framework.
Yeah,
And
thanks for mentioning it.
yeah, and I love that. So we mentioned earlier we're a membership organization. We do a lot of group learning. We have something called pods that we just started. They're 12-week sprints, if you will, on a specific topic. And so they're right now, to your point about follow the learner to meet them where they are.
Mhm.
We're doing it where everyone has their own goal. But I also know that we need a bit of a framework. So, can you dive into an example or share some examples of the surface, the deeper, and the applied learning in action?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this work has been tested in education research. So my theory of learning was applied in schools over the past
Awesome.
decades, and then it was peer reviewed by research. Showed that learning can quadruple. You can actually combine 4 years worth of learning into a single year by developing these 7 habits. I have to say that that work was also peer reviewed, which is like adds to the level of reliability. And then
Yep.
it was published in Oxford University's Research Encyclopedia of Education. So it exists as a very high level of reliability. And the T3 framework is really kind of the basis of this because I've introduced 3 different phases of learning. The first phase, what I call translational learning, that's the T1. You translate something that's external into your internal language.
Okay.
You got to kind of break the code though, because if somebody else is talking or you're learning some new content, whether it's accounting principles or high level mathematics, you got to learn the details. You got to learn the components. I'm a musician, so I use a lot of musical analogies in the book. So if I'm going to learn a new song, I got to know the chords. I got to
Mhm.
know the notes. I got to know the fundamental building blocks. And those are the details. They usually consist of facts, thoughts, terms, and ideas. Deeper learning requires a transformation. So that's the second T in the T3 framework is transformational learning. And we become transformed when we take those details and rearrange them and organize them so that we can find the connections between them, the relationships
Cool.
among and between these new terms, new ideas, new concepts. How do they apply to me? How do they apply to my work? How are they how can I respond to them in a holistic manner? I'm not just regurgitating and spitting back out. I'm
Yeah.
actually piecing them together like a puzzle in my reality. The third phase I call transcendent learning. And that's when you take the knowledge that you deeply acquired and apply it to solve some new problem. There's that technology idea. You have this knowledge. When you use it as a lever to understand something new or to crack some new learning situation, that's transcending. You're going above and beyond just mere spit back and regurgitation, but you're using your knowledge as a technology. And that's where innovation takes place. When we go to transcendent, that's when we look at new opportunities, new um, affordances that allow us to do something new and better and disrupt our current rock and roll. And that's I think where insight comes from applying knowledge and transcending just what we would normally do. do something completely new and better. And that applies to everything. It seems to, I mean, most of my career, all of my career has really been in K-12 education, but this learning applies almost, as you said before, there's a universality to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm exploring now in my career, is helping businesses and organizations learn, because as we said at the beginning, the firm that learns is the firm that earns.
Oh my God.
I nailed it.
Great
Nailed it.
marks.
I love it.
By Sonny Magana.
Yeah,
I
love it.
It almost feels a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy. It has a
Yeah,
little taste
absolutely.
of that.
Yeah.
There's this
Well,
functional level, and you move to
Yeah.
self-actualization.
yeah.
It sounds like this translation learning is very functional,
Yeah.
but transcendent is this application to
Yeah.
any platform. In the same framework plays out for everything. But if someone's never played guitar before, the intimidation factor is so
Yeah.
great. Someone's never done accounting before or done consultative work. We're encouraging people to do consultative fractional CFO type of work. Just the phrase is so intimidating.
Yeah. It can be daunting.
Yeah. How do you dip your toe in the water?
Well, I'll give you a clear objection. By the way, you're absolutely right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is something that in education we talk about all the time. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but
There you
yeah,
go.
you're absolutely right.
Like an A+.
You did. You get a
Gold star, Mike.
Yeah.
Gold star.
External measurement. Not
Feed me in the crease, and you put it in the net.
Dude, I'm a MIDI all day long. Right
There
to
you
you.
go. There you go. So Maslow's highest level is called self-actualization, and while I've been studying that for 40 some years, it always left me wondering, like, how do you get there? Yeah, I get self-actualization is like realizing your potential, but what are the steps to get there? So I've really kind of broken it down in my book, Learning in the Zone. What are the precursors to self-actualization? And it turns out that when you are doing something that is beyond what you think you can do, you're probably not going to do it. But I heard a story from Eddie Van Halen when I was 14 years old. I was just learning how to play the guitar, and I was very happy playing chords, open chords around the campfire, and strumming my guitar and meeting people and having friends. And then I heard Van Halen 1.
Yeah.
Specifically the song Eruption.
Yeah.
90 seconds that just changed my life. I just had no concept that guitars could make that kind of sound. It was mesmerizing, and I had to learn more. And I looked at my old, guitar, and I think I wonder if I need to upgrade, level up. I needed to level up my game.
Yeah.
It just so happened I heard him on the radio in Philadelphia, outside of New Jersey, where I grew up. I grew up in South Jersey, and he was on WMMR. John DeBella was interviewing Eddie Van Halen because Van Halen was playing at the Spectrum. And he asked him a question. He said, Eddie, do you have any knowledge or gifts that you want to share with the budding rock guitarists in the Delaware Valley? And to his credit, Eddie Van Halen said, yes, I do. He said, kids, this is your Uncle Eddie speaking. If you're the kind of kid, I know, I felt immediately like, okay, Uncle Eddie, tell me more. He said, if you're playing the guitar, you're probably the kind of kid that's strumming an acoustic guitar with open chords around a campfire. He said, that's great. Every guitar starts that way. Keep doing that. But if you want to get better, you got to want it. And you got to know that you're in a stage. He said, I call that the campfire stage. Every great guitarist has gone through the campfire stage.
Yeah.
But you got to know that you're in a stage and that there's another stage after it. So to your question, just knowing that a pathway exists is tantamount to taking that pathway.
Yeah.
So he said the next level he called it the Chuck Berry phase. All great rock and roll
Double stops
is derived from double stops and those minor pentatonic riffs that Chuck Berry he didn't maybe invent them, but he certainly popularized them. Every great guitarist has gone through the Chuck Berry phase.
Yeah.
You got to go through that phase in order to get to the final phase where you're transcending and doing your own thing and becoming your own interpretation of who you could be, self-actualizing as a guitarist. And that was absolutely the inspiration for my T3 framework. Because translational learning is like sitting around playing the same songs on the guitar. You're not going to get better. You're actually going to get worse. Yeah. Your skills will deteriorate.
Well, because we got to wrap up. The clock is like blaring. Yeah. One last question, and it's around guitar because it may translate. For me, there's been keystone moments: the cowboy chords, then the pentatonic scale opened up, and then the caged system.
Yeah, that's framework. That's a framework.
But there's a lot of stuff in between that's important and relevant, but
Yeah.
there's these certain keystone moments. Is that true in all learning, that
Yeah.
all of a sudden it just feels like you've arrived at the next level, even though it's been
Yep.
all this work to get there? There's this moment where it seems that
The dam bursts. The dam bursts, and all of a
Dam
sudden you're
bursts,
in a
that's
new
the word, yeah.
in a new phase. And those are the stages. Translational is the first stage. It's like playing guitar on the campfire. Transformational is the second stage. That's when you really conceptually understand something and are able to apply it, demonstrate it, discuss it, model it. The third stage is when you're in the innovative mind frame, and you are taking something and applying it in ways that no one else has done before.
But that dam bursting is so important, because I
Yeah.
think that's when it wins your internal favor.
Yeah. It's a dopamine release. Our
That's
brains,
what it is. So
we get a
how
dopamine release.
serotonin, dopamine, all
Yeah,
those good juices. How can our listeners maintain the faith that dam's coming, and then when it happens, how does that inspire them for the next one?
Exactly. That's a great question, because like that's where we develop grit. That's where we
Great. There
develop
it is.
that
That's the answer.
sense of perseverance. And lacrosse players know grit. It's such a tough game. It's not easy to learn. You got to learn your offhand. You got to work with your weak sided hand.
Yeah.
When you persevere with something, this is a truism, as true as anything. When you first start some new learning experience, it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. You're going to hit like a deeper learning pit. Emotions are going to slide. It's not going to feel good. You're not going to be successful. But once you get to the transcendent stage, your emotions soar. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, folks. There's thousands of years of research that backs this up. When you achieve transcendent learning and you're applying your learning in new and innovative ways, you feel great. The outcome is worth doing on its own, and you're at a higher level of consciousness and cognizance, and one step closer to that self-actualization.
Love it. Dr. Sonny Magana, thank you so much. Before we let you go, where should people get your book? How can they contact you?
It's on Amazon, Learning in the Zone, The 7 Habits of Meta Learners. I'm working on a new book at the moment called Teaching in the Zone, which is going to be the 5 principles of AI integration for learning, because that's the new thing, and researching that. And then my website is maganaeducation.com, so folks can find me there, or on LinkedIn or X or Instagram, just Sonny Magana.
All right, we'll have that in the show links. Every listener right now, get Learning in the Zone.
Seriously.
Right now. Go to Amazon and get it. If this podcast was anything, it was a teaser for what you're going to find in that book. So get it. All right, Sonny, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sonny. That was delightful. Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Really appreciate you, Liz and Mike. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Liz, we're going to recap what we learned in just a second. I got a GMAT Now task, and you have a trippy question, I believe.
I do.
Okay.
I do have a trippy question. And the only question is, how would you like to spend your elder years? One of the things that Sonny said at the beginning, he's like, I'm 64 years old. This is what I want to do for the next 25 years, right? He's already had a huge career, a huge thing. What do you want to do, Mike? You're doing
Well,
a million
I'm
things.
10 years behind Sonny, and I like to be doing what Sonny's doing at 60. In my 60s, I like to be doing what Sonny's doing in my 70s, maybe into my 80s. I will tell you this. I don't want to experience what my father experienced, which was very much the protocol of retire at 64 and live your golden years, which was golfing until you're exhausted. And then it was boredom. So that's the one thing I won't do. I will continue to teach, because what Sonny just shared with me, what you teach is what you're learning. So keep teaching.
Oh,
But
I love it. Yeah, so it's pretty similar. I just love reading and learning and applying. And so I just feel like I'll be continuing to create forever. I will be on the ocean, though.
You won't be out on the lacrosse field?
I will not be out on the lacrosse field anymore. Well, you know what? Maybe if they're coaching, who knows? I have 3 kids. Maybe they're coaching.
I got midfield. Sonny's got attack. You're a goalie. You're the goalie.
I got goalie. I got a goalie boy and a midi attack girl. So we got
pillows. Sonny's gonna be ripping at you.
But it'll be the ocean, nonstop learning for sure. This is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay.
What are your takeaways, Michael?
Pages worth, and I'm just
That's
what thrills me when a guest like Sonny comes on, is I leave so inspired that now I'm going to do hours of research. I'm going to be getting his book. I'm going to be digging into this. Couple takeaways is that anyone can learn anything. You just have to understand the framework. That was inspiring, and now I believe it to be true. I was resistant to it before the interview, and now I'm like optimistic about it. And there's a framework. And he kept on saying change environmental conditions, and just shared stories. I'll tell you, he was also the most prepared guest in a long time. He was talking about our stuff, our show,
Oh,
my books.
yeah.
And using
Gold star for Sonny, for sure.
influence people. You connect. You share commonalities. You refer to their own stuff. So brilliant. This was a 401 level education in how to connect and present as a guest on a podcast show. So
Agreed.
what about
That's
you?
great. Okay. So first of all, I come from the world of education. I come from a world of, I know fundamentally our brain is very capable of learning and relearning. So he was already speaking my language. But I love the 7 steps because they're so simple and so applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
Audience members who are listening. Commitment, self-regulation. How many times do we say, chill, everybody take a breath? Like, journaling matters, reflection matters, looking backward matters, leveraging that prior knowledge, looking to see what we know and then how we can use that as a lever, as a tool. I loved it. Contributive learning. Last week is that time in designer days was so amazing to be able to remind people that that's what this is. We're learning, we're sharing is caring, but they learned so much from each other. And then I loved the framework, the surface, deeper, and applied. It just, my head's exploding.
And I'm going to share too one more thing. I love my little rhymes and stuff. So if Sonny's listening and still, he can use this. You got to have grit until you get your dopamine hit. Like he keeps saying, like there's these dam moments where the dam breaks.
Yeah.
And I was like, what gets you there? He goes, grit. I was like, oh, it's grit, hit. And that was awakening for me. All right. One last thing I got for you before we wrap up this show is the GMAP Now task. The one task, if you do it, you will see results. You can have AI do role playing with you.
Oh.
You're afraid to do sales calls? Go on to AI and you can sit in the chat mode, tell it your ideal customer and tell it to challenge you with the biggest roadblocks it can present to you that are, integral to the conversation and prepare you to sell. Practice selling. You can do it in your car. You just hook it up to your Bluetooth stereo. And while I'm driving to work, I'm doing role playing. You can get dozens or hundreds of practice sessions in and you'll master that skill. It's part of learning.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Thank you. That's so great. All right, everybody. We did it. We did it. Another beautiful episode. Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, listeners. I appreciate you all so much. Today was a great episode. If you liked it, please give us a review on any of your podcasts. We'd love to hear from it. Hope you're checking us out online on YouTube as well, so you can watch and see Sonny's smiling face and all his guitars. We'd love that. If you would like to learn a little bit more about Profit First Professionals and what being a member here and having amazing access to people like Sonny and other amazing professionals, go to profitfirstprofessionals.com and click on the Discovery Call button. That'll route you to have a call with either Ron Saharian or myself, and we'll give you an idea of what membership looks like and how you could be able to transform your firm into an amazing, educational, profitable firm of the future. So thank you all so much. ProfitFirstProfessionals.com. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye-bye.